Sicily, the largest island in the Mediterranean, is the most diverse region in Italy. A land of gods and natural forces, and a place of ancient cultures. Throughout the history of Sicily, there have been many battles, rulers, cultures, and religions. Catania, in the northeast of the island, is Sicily's second largest city. It's been strongly influenced by earthquakes and the volcanic activity of Mount Etna. However, after each disaster, the city was rebuilt. The result is a Baroque city, full of character and charm, ruins alongside elegance. It is believed that Greek settlers from Chalkidi founded this city that some centuries later was conquered by the Romans. Later, the Arabs brought it a new wave of prosperity. The Normans followed, and Emperor Friedrich II had a fortress built here, but perilous times were not too far away. In 1669, lava from Mount Etna's main crater flowed through the city. And 24 years later, an earthquake virtually destroyed it. Yet, it was once again rebuilt. The Piazza del Duomo was created, the center of Baroque Catania. In the 15th century, the Spanish monarchs of Aragon introduced newfound prosperity to the city. The city's popular markets highlight the Italian way of life, a wonderful experience. The parks are a wonderful place to relax. The sea has always been of great importance to the city of Syracuse. Devastating earthquakes destroyed much of the Norman predecessor of today's cathedral. Since then, its facade has been completely rebuilt. The cathedral is the historical center of the town, and a settlement existed here in 734 BC prior to the arrival of the Greeks. The catacombs of the Santa Lucia district are the finest outside Rome. Several dark corridors lead through various ancient Christian burial places. Today, there are only the ruins and splendid columns of the town's first cathedral that date back to the 6th century and also to Byzantine times. An audience of up to 15,000 was accommodated on the steps of the Teatro Greco, one of the most beautiful theaters of antiquity. The grotto is a wonder of acoustics. Even the most gentle whisper can be heard here. Legend has it that the tyrant Dionysius used this phenomenon to eavesdrop on his prisoners. Much of Syracuse's history can be seen close to the periphery of the town. But it's likely that the work of the archaeologists will continue here for some time to come. Noto, a charming town with around 20,000 inhabitants. It's one of the most beautiful enclosed Baroque towns in Sicily. However, many of Noto's historic buildings have been neglected for many years and are thus in somewhat less than perfect condition. The Cathedrale Di San Nicolo also fell into disrepair as a result of continued neglect, and this caused both its dome and part of its roof to collapse in 1996. Despite the extensive restoration work of recent years, many of Noto's buildings in the old part of town still leave much to be desired. A devastating earthquake in 1693 destroyed the original town of Noto and left it in ruins. Construction of the new town took almost 100 years until, at the end of the 18th century, most of its buildings had been rebuilt. The privately owned train, the Ferrovia Circum-Etnia, travels around Mount Etna, from Catania to Riposto. Randazzo is well worth a visit. Although this small village is located only 15 kilometers from the volcano, it has been miraculously spared the destructive might of its lava. Both farmland and wilderness blend into each other. The next stop is the station at Lingua Glossa. The name of this village, which translated means large tongue, refers to the stream of lava that Etna left here in 1634. As it gradually meanders on a single track to a higher altitude, the train travels past agricultural land. Most of the trains of the Ferrovia Circum-Etnia date back to the 1950s and have put in many years of good service. For the 114-kilometer journey, the narrow-gauge railroad takes a total of 3.5 hours. Riposto is the terminal of this nostalgic train journey. A proud and mighty volcano rises above eastern Sicily. Mount Etna, the largest volcano in Europe, is the undisputed ruler of this fascinating Mediterranean island. The snow on the summit region of Etna obscures the fact that deep within the volcano is an unimaginable natural furnace, with a temperature of around 1,000 degrees Celsius. During the ascent, we travel past various of Etna's vegetation zones that at their highest point of around 3,370 meters add to its imposing appearance. It's not surprising that the people of antiquity were so impressed by Etna's huge clouds of billowing smoke that they believed there were divine forces at work within the mountain. It is particularly at night that one can witness one of the most amazing natural spectacles in Europe, when the surrounding scenery is illuminated by the fiery mountain. After the Romans came the Byzantines. They made this village the center of Byzantine Sicily, until it was plundered and destroyed by the Arabs. Taormina is situated on a rock high above the Ionic Sea, and the Teatro Greco features the breathtaking Mount Etna. The old town ended at Porta Messina, whose medieval palaces and villas have been preserved right up until the present day. But today, mass tourism rules the day, and a cable car makes it easy to travel between the coast and the mountain town. The journey to the north coast travels through the splendid Nebrodi mountains that consist mainly of soft clay, marl and sandstone. The views of the surrounding mountains and ancient villages are quite outstanding. Few tourists venture into this remote mountain world that is also a protected area. The Normans built a gigantic cathedral in Cefalu that dominates the surrounding countryside, to honor Christ, the judge of the world. Popular with tourists, it's a dreamy and historically important village. A journey to Madoni, the mountainous inland of Cefalu, is an absolute must. This small mountain village is set amid a green mountain landscape and fertile meadows, a picture of tranquility and silence. The Madoni Mountains are known as the Sicilian Alps. The Pizzo Carbonara is the island's second largest mountain. This 77,000-hectare area has been protected since 1989 to the benefit of both nature and the people who come here. The road leads to further mountain villages. Many of them were created by the Romans. And the Arabs and the Normans enlarged them for the security of the inland area. Throughout the centuries, the simple villages of this region have gradually helped to form this landscape by way of agriculture, farming and cattle breeding. Nature has always been a part of life here. Yet in spite of the harshest conditions, man has always found a way of cohabiting with nature. Due to the splendor of a truly golden epoch, the city of Agrigento is one of the most well-known and most visited places in Sicily. The huge cathedral is situated at the highest point of the city's medieval district. It can be seen from far and wide, and throughout the centuries has gradually been developed. Under King Roger II, trade with Africa flourished. But when later the Arabs were driven away, the city's economy suffered. The nearby 13th century Cistercian monastery is one of the oldest and most beautiful religious buildings in Sicily. The abbey was founded by the wealthy and influential nobility. The impressive architecture of bygone times is reflected in the ruins of the slowly decaying monastery. Valle dei Templi, the Valley of Temples, contains the sacred sites and ruins of the ancient city of Akragas that is situated close to Agrigento. 1,000 years of history. Greek settlers founded the ancient city of Akragas in 581 BC. Almost 100 years later, the aspiring metropolis attained its first great flowering period under the tyrant Teron. The military victory over the Carthaginians introduced much prosperity to the city. Within the former subterranean canals, there are various early Christian graves, and the majestic Concordia Temple is one of the most well-preserved sanctuaries of ancient Greece. On the highest point of the temple hill is the Hera Sanctuary. From here, there's a good view of the Valley of Temples. Heraclea Minor was often involved in border conflicts as it lay between Selinunte and Agrigento on the frontier between Carthage and Greece. The ruins of the Greek settlement are situated on the white, shining plateau of Capobianco. The remains of a city wall, a number of Hellenistic and Roman dwelling houses, as well as an amphitheatre, are still to be seen in this settlement that was destroyed in the 1st century BC. Proudly and majestically, the E-Temple, that was originally built in honor of the Greek goddess Hera, rises up from the meadows of Selinunte. For several centuries, little was visible of the once important city of Selinus, that was situated on the border of the former Greek Empire. It was almost lost forever. In 409 BC, the Carthaginians attacked the formerly friendly city of Selinus, although the reason for this remains a mystery. Mazara del Vallo, to the extreme west of the island, also has a long history. This ancient settlement was the first Sicilian town that was conquered by the Arabs after they landed at Capogranitola. It is one of the largest fishing ports in Italy that appears to again be dominated by North Africa. Marsala was given its name by the Arabs, who called it Marsal-Allah, God's harbour. The monumental city gate is a reminder of the landing of Giuseppe Garibaldi on the 8th of March, 1860. With his army of 1,000 red shirts, Garibaldi marched to the Baroque Cathedral. From Marsala, a coastal road leads to Trapani, the Via del Sale, or Salt Road. Boats travel between a number of salt pools to the small island of San Pantaleo. This area also features the remains of the Phoenician trading centre of Motia. In the 19th century, the British Marsala wine merchant Joseph Whittaker excavated this site. Long summers, high temperatures and constant breezes have for many centuries assisted the harvesting of sea salt in this region. In March, during high tide, fresh seawater fills the pools. After evaporation, the remaining water is fed to lower pools. After around 3 months, the salt is harvested and piled high. It's then stored under bricks until the following spring. The Salina de Nubia contains a museum in which old tools, instruments, photos and models demonstrate the history of salt production. Trapani marks the end of the Via del Sale. Garibaldi still surveys the Baroque old town beyond the harbour. Palaces and civic houses indicate the former wealth of Trapani, that, after Palermo and Messina, was for 100 years Sicily's main trading harbour. On a mountain summit, 750 meters above the Mediterranean, is Erice, the ancient town of Eryx. Located above the ruins of the ancient Acropolis, since the 12th century, this Norman fortress has commanded an extensive view of the surrounding landscape. A few kilometers from here, the Elima founded the town of Segesta within these idyllic hills, a place of Greek culture and lifestyle. The town was constantly in dispute with Selinunte, until finally Syracuse took revenge and destroyed almost everything. Only the temple and the theatre remain. In the mountain area close to Palermo is the picturesque town of Monreale, a townscape that for more than 800 years has been dominated by a single building. Monreale Cathedral was built due to a struggle for power between the Bishop of Palermo and the Norman King William. The interior is full of splendor, with its unique architecture and artistic decorations. And Christus Pancreator, the Almighty and Judge of the world, watches over one and all. Even today, the Monreale's cloister is almost completely intact and is considered to be one of the most perfect examples of Romanic sculpture in Sicily. Here, the architecture, paintings and sculptures have combined with Western European, Byzantine and Oriental influences to form a harmonious whole. And the buildings proudly overlook their former rivals. In the Sicilian metropolis of Palermo. Following the city's conquest by the Saracens, an ancient cathedral on this site was transformed into a Friday mosque that was later used for Christian ceremonies. The Porta Nuova is a noble gate that leads into the old town. The oriental splendor of the Norman court unites here with all the fragility of the last century, the destiny of an ancient harbour city. In the 8th century AD, the Phoenicians named this, their trading harbour on the northern coast of Sicily, the Flower. Its most prosperous years came when the Arabs conquered Sicily. The Islamic architects transformed the harbour city into a fairy tale from the 1001 Nights. Next to the Villa Giulia and close to the sea is a large botanical garden that was created in 1789, the Orto Botanico. And the Marionette Museum features a centuries-old tradition, Sicilian marionette theatre. A modern yachting harbour, the Teatro Massimo, and an archaeological museum are among the many sights of this extraordinary city. And Modelo Beach is protected by the slopes of Monte Pellegrino. Here, this fascinating journey comes to an end. Sicily is exquisite, an ancient island of both discovery and pleasure.